Well, how you doing? Welcome to Jay's Retro Toys and Games. I'm Jason DeCanio, and it's episode 53 on this March 15th, 2023. Hope you had a great weekend. Tonight, we're going to be looking at a toy that's been so popular with the movie franchise that as soon as I tell you what the toy is, you'll know it. So between 1978 to 1985, the Kenner Company produced and sold these action figures based on the franchise from a line of over 100 unique toys. A total of more than 300 million units were sold during their original run. And then Kenner began producing new action figures in 1995. What are we talking about tonight? Kenner Star Wars action figures. That's what we're talking about tonight on Jay's Retro Toys and Games. Wednesday, middle of this week, first show back from the weekend. Hope you had fun with last time with the My Little Pony history. That was good, and I'll tell you, that toy picked up a lot of views over the weekend as soon as we launched it this past Friday. In fact, it's up to close to 90 views, and we thank you, each and every one of you, for taking the time to watch the program and get an idea of My Little Pony. The toy that's still dominating our channel to this moment right now is the Army Men at close to over 460 views. I can't believe it. And when I thought Axis and Allies was going to be the most popular video of the channel, boy, was I wrong. I was dead on wrong. You guys like Army Men so much, we'll have to do a kind of a backup, like another sequel to the Army Men and give you more information. Maybe we'll do an article and see what they say about it. But right now, we welcome you tonight to episode 53 on this Wednesday, March 15th, 2023. It's time to look at the Kenner's Star Wars action figures that ran from 1978 to 1985, and then again they're making new ones as of 30 years ago, and the availability of the toy is still there since 1978. So it's been 44 years since, because I was born in 77 and I'm 45, going to be 46 this year. So it's 45 years of this anniversary, actually. Pretty good, right? Okay. So the license for Star Wars action figures was offered in 1976 to the Mego Corporation, which was the leading company in action figures in the 1970s. Mego refused the offer, and the license was subsequently picked up by Kenner, which was a division of General Mills Fun Group. Now, Star Wars 1977 was the first film to successfully market toys based on the movie. In fact, they were so successful that George Lucas independently used the funds to finance the next two movie chapters, The Empire Strikes Back in 80 and Return of the Jedi in 1983, which subsequently Star Wars in these three movies was 4, 5, and 6. Okay, which later became 4, 5, and 6, and then you had 1, 2, and 3, and, well, you know the whole movie thing. Tonight we're focusing on the toys, okay? So although the original Star Wars film had been released in May of 1977, Kenner was unprepared for the unprecedented response to the film and the high demand for toys, mainly due to George Lucas's unwillingness to provide character vehicle designs for fear his creations would be plagiarized by movie and TV competitors. Unable to build sufficient stock in time for the lucrative Christmas market, They instead sold an early bird certificate package, which included a certificate which could be mailed to Kenner and redeemed for 4 Star Wars action figures. The first 4 figures to be distributed were Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Chewbacca, and R2-D2. The box also contains a diorama display stand, some stickers, and a Star Wars fan club membership card. By the time the action figures were offered for direct sales in shops, the range had been augmented with a further 8 figures, which include C-3PO, Darth Vader, Stormtrooper, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Han Solo, Jawa, Sand People, and Death Squad Commander, bringing the total number of figures in the initial release to 12. They were supplemented later in 1978 with a number of vehicle and playset accessories, as well as the J.C. Penney exclusive Sonic-controlled land speeder and the Sears exclusive Cantina Adventure playset, which introduced 4 new figures. Now, 3 of the 4 figures that were first brought out in the Sears Cantina set were released for individual sale, as well as a variant of the 4th, and with a further 4 figures later in 1978, bringing the total number of figures to 20. Demand for the action figures and accessories was such that Kenner continued to have difficulty fulfilling demand. Shortages of the toys in the lead up to Christmas 1978 led some to claim that Kenner was deliberately manipulating the market. Sales of Kenner's Star Wars range in 1978 reached 40 million units, accounting for a revenue of $100 million. Now, in anticipation of the release of the sequel movie, The Empire Strikes Back, Kenner offered its first mail-in promotion, in which 4 proofs of purchase could be redeemed for a new action figure, Boba Fett. Now, this figure was originally intended to feature a backpack with a firing missile, but this was abandoned due to safety concerns. Similar mail-in promotions were periodically offered through to 1984. Sales in 79 again topped 100 million. Kenner continued to introduce waves of action figures from the sequels, and in 1984, the year following the release of the movie Return of the Jedi, the range totaled 79 unique character designs, not including the retired versions of R2-D2 and C-3PO. Then in 1985, the figure range was renamed Power of the Force, in which a further 15 figures were released. 2 further ranges of Star Wars action figures were also released based on the animated series. Star Wars, you had droids, and the Star Wars Ewoks. The droids range comprised 12 figures, 2 of which were identical to figures from the main Star Wars line, and the Ewoks line comprised 6 figures. By mid-1985, the demand for Star Wars merchandise had slowed, and Kenner discontinued production of its action figures. However, Kenner would produce the new line of Star Wars toys, which began in 1995. The Star Wars action figures are plastic, usually similar, or they're smaller than 4 inches, and are typically posable at 5 points on their bodies, but there are many differences and unique qualities in the individual figures that depart from these norms. Kenner's Star Wars action figures were produced along with vehicles and playsets based on the Star Wars movies. The majority of figures were packaged individually attached to card backs in a plastic blister. There's also a list of Kenner Star Wars action figures. There's a lot of them. And just to give you a little small description of them, we'll come back to that in a little bit. Okay? But now here are the variations. The variations exist for most of the different figures. These can range from major resculpts and differences in accessories supplied with figures to differences in paint detailing, for instance in hair color, or differences in sculpting materials. Some variations command higher prices in the collector market due to relative scarcity. And during the Empire Strikes Back run, the R2-D2 figure was altered to include an extendable sensor scope. Similarly, C-3PO was resculpted with removable limbs. In 1985, R2-D2 was again altered to feature a pop-up lightsaber. Both the removable limb C-3PO and pop-up lightsaber R2-D2 were offered with alternate paint detailing in the droid's range. The lightsaber welding characters originally featured a double telescoping saber mechanism, and this was changed to a single telescoping mechanism early in 1978. As the Luke Skywalker figure was part of the early bird promotion, proportionately more of these were released with the double telescoping mechanism, while double telescoping Ben, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Darth Vader figures are comparatively more rare and sought after. The Sears exclusive Cantina Adventure playset contains 4 action figures. The Snaggletooth figure, initially introduced, wears a blue outfit with silver disco-style boots, and is about the same size as the Luke and Han figures. Upon George Lucas's request, this blue Snaggletooth was subsequently corrected to represent the character as actually featured in the movie, and a resculpted, shorter, barefoot, red outfitted figure was released. Only the corrected red Snaggletooth was released on blistered card backs, which made the blue Snaggletooth more scarce and sought after by collectors. Early Han Solo figures have a somewhat diminutive head sculpt. This was later replaced by a larger sculpt, and early Jawa figures were released with a vinyl cape similar to that of Obi-Wan Kenobi. This was later changed to a fabric cloak. From the period through 1977 to mid-1984, figures sold individually in stores were issued on card backs that corresponded to the most current movie, which figures being sold on card backs with Star Wars designs through to 1980, then on Empire Strikes Back cards through to 1983, followed by Return of the Jedi cards and Power of the Force cards in 1984. Well, as the number of figures in the range increased, the card back design would be altered accordingly. Thus, the earliest figures released for direct sale in shops were issued on a card back, the rear of which was illustrated the then full range of 12 figures, known as a 12 back. The 12 back was supplanted by the 20 back, and subsequently by the 21 back, the 31 back, the 32, the 41, 45, 47 back, the 48 back, the 65, 77, 79, and the 92 back. Variations exist for each of the card back fronts, and these range from differences in promotional offer stickers applied to the card to differences in the photograph illustrating the character. Similar variations exist for all of the card back rear designs, with the exceptions of the 47 back and 92 back designs that were only available in a single version. As of 2012, there are 57 different card back front-rear combinations recognized. This does not include figures released through overseas companies or the Droids or Ewoks ranges. Now, Star Wars figures were offered for sale in a number of countries outside the U.S. These were usually sold through the other companies, many of which were also subsidiaries of General Mills. In the UK, the Star Wars license was held by Palitoy, which imported the figures and packaged them in the UK on Palitoy-branded card backs. Analogous arrangements were in place in Spain with the company PBP Pooch or Potch, in France with Meccano, and in the Benelux countries with Clipper, in Germany with Parker, in Italy with Harbert, and in Scandinavia with Brio Playmix. In Japan, the line was first controlled by the company Takara, then by Pape, and finally by Sakuda. The license was acquired in Australia by Toll Toys, while in Mexico it was held by Little Letty, and in Brazil by Glasslight. In certain cases, figures produced by the non-U.S. licensed companies are substantially different from those sold by Kenner. Takara, for example, sold resculpted versions of Darth Vader, Stormtrooper, and C-3PO. Lily Leedy used different paint detailing and different fabric accessories. Glasslight figures were molded using slightly different, glossier plastic and used different paint detailing. The Glasslight Droids range was also notable in that it included a character, Vlix, that had not been issued in other countries. The Vlix figure was prototyped for the Kenner line, but never made it past the stage of being mocked up on a card. Toward the end of the Star Wars figure run, Figures for the European market were issued on tri-logo cardbacks, so called as the cardback front had 3 logos in English, French, and Spanish. The cardback rear was a unique design showing 70 characters. Tri-logos are in somewhat greater demand amongst collectors due to overstock having been bought by the U.S. company KB. The character Yak Face, that had only previously been issued in Canada and Australia, was also available on a tri-logo card. Now, as the figures were intended and generally used as toys, accessories such as weapons and cloaks were often lost or stickers were damaged. Once a collector's market had been established, some collectors started replacing accessories with reproduction items. Such items are considered undesirable amongst collectors in some countries, particularly where figure variations centering on differences in accessories has led to a price premium, such as with the double telescoping lightsabers or the vinyl-caped Jawa. Some hard-to-obtain figures have also been reproduced, often with the aim of passing them off as original, authentic figures. Notable examples include the rocket-firing Boba Fett prototype and unpainted prototypes of regular figures. And while officially licensed figures were produced in many countries, others had no official means of distribution. Taking advantage of consumer demand for the toys, manufacturers in some countries released unlicensed bootleg figures. These vary in materials, casting method, and in quality. And for example, some of the figures produced by the manufacturer Uzay in Turkey are of a high standard and were often cast in unconventional colors with little regard to authenticity. The quirkiness of these figures, with their often bizarre psychedelic cardbacks, have led to demand from collectors, and they frequently demand a high price premium. A renewed interest in Star Wars was apparent by the mid-90s due to a re-release of the trilogy on Laserdisc and VHS, and in anticipation of the upcoming Star Wars Special Edition. Kenner, which had been bought by Tonka in 1987 and subsequently by Hasbro in 1991, took advantage of this and in 1995 released a new line of Star Wars action figures, again under the logo power of the Force. These figures were easily distinguishable from the vintage range due to the new figures being sculpted in more heroic style with larger muscles, and are known to collectors as Power of the Force 2. The Power of the Force 2 figures continued to be branded as Kenner until 1999, when they were rebranded as Hasbro, and Hasbro continues to market Star Wars action figures to the present day. Kenner's success with the Star Wars line motivated creators of other action-adventure movies to market their own action figure lines. 2 of Steven Spielberg's 1982 films, Poltergeist and E.T. the Extraterrestrial, feature scenes showing Star Wars action figures. Star Wars action figures are the subject of a 2014 direct-to-video documentary film, Plastic Galaxy, The Story of Star Wars Toys. Star Wars action figures and toys were the subject of Episode 1 of the 2017 Netflix documentary, The Toys That Made Us. And a 2020 episode of Star Wars, The Clone Wars, features a group of 3 aliens wearing outfits matching original Kenner toys. And there you have it, friends. The very interesting, short, but sweet look at the Kenner line of Star Wars action figures. Coming up this Friday, we'll delve into a game ready to go, because we've had our 2 toys. So I'm going to now look at the list of, see what I can do here. Scroll up. Oh, but we haven't done Hungry Hippos yet. So we're going to do that one on Friday. Put it up there. It's a tabletop game made for 2 to 4 players, produced by Hasbro and Milton Bradley, and it's been out since 1978. So this is the 45th anniversary. We'll look at Hungry Hippos coming up this Friday on episode 54 of Jay's Retro Toys and Games. I'm Jason DeCanio. From all of us here at the YouTube channel, please subscribe if you haven't already. We'd love to have you as part of our great growing family. Remember, always be honest, be real. Keep it simple, stupid. Kiss. We will see you on Friday. Have a great night. Bye for now.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Advertising Network for great more content like this one.